and it's 9:30. I think let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And regarding the agenda today, we're going to do a quick flip of public invited to be heard. We're going to bring that up now so that Chris Heroy is here from Habitat for Humanity, and he's going to share some information about the Homes Tour with us. So thank you for being here.
It's fun. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Before I start, I don't know much about the society and the group and how you all are connected, and so can I get a quick overview?
Sure. Yeah. So Callahan House was built in 1892 for a different family, and then the Callahans actually acquired it 4 years later and lived here until 1938 when they donated the house to the city of Longmont for the purposes of women's clubs. And at that time, the original advisory board, the original board was formed. And so there's been a board and a house manager that has run Callahan House since 1938.
Wow.
And so we still have clubs that meet here on a weekly basis. And then we also use the house for private rentals, weddings, other things that people can rent the house for. And we do a little bit of community programming, teas and murder mystery dinner and some art classes and things like that. So that's kind of the use of the house.
How often does the board meet?
Once a month, and then for regular meetings and then committee meetings in between for various other projects and things like that.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Well, it seems like a potential match made in heaven. So I'm Chris. I'm with Habitat for Humanity. I'm the development director, and I've been with Habitat since August. Habitat's been in Longmont 38 years, and we build homes affordably. We sell them to people who are below an average income, and they pay an affordable mortgage, kind of in the sum of it. We build with volunteers, and we have the Restore where we sell gently used materials and household goods so that we can help raise money as well. We are an independent 501c3. There's over 1,000 across the country, and we're over 70 countries around the world, and they all operate independently. And so our kind of mission is to put God's love into action by bringing people together to build homes and community and hope. And so mostly we focus on building homes, but in doing that, we're working with volunteers. We bring community together, and we help people that probably couldn't buy a home otherwise be able to buy a home. And through that, they gain stability, they gain a place that they can raise their families in community, and there's just so many benefits of homeownership. Beyond affordable housing, it's something that we see when people can kind of invest in themselves and their families and build some generational stability and wealth. Yeah. So that's Habitat. Like I say, I've been a little over 7 months now with Habitat, and some of my background I was able to share. I was in the mortgage business for a long time, and that's where Candy and I met, probably. Yeah. Although there were some family connections there as well. The reason I'm here today, we're talking about the Gift of Home Tour. Gift of Home Tour has a long history. Anybody familiar? Who's been there or attended? We got a couple attendees. Great. Over 50 years, I think this would be 58 years, that the Gift of Home Tours happened in Longmont or Longmont area. And it started as a way to, I think it was through a church, that they would put a home on tour and people could go through and see it during Christmas time. And it turned into where they would have vendors set up to decorate the home, and that's kind of the track we've taken. It's gone through some different iterations with different churches and nonprofits running it, and Habitat has had kind of the ability to help shepherd it and be the recipient of the fundraising monies for the last 4 years. And so we identify a number of homes in the community, typically 3, sometimes 4, and we typically either have a vendor come in and decorate the home, or the home is decorated by the homeowner, and then we sell tickets that people would come and tour through. It's usually the first week of December-ish. It's usually a Friday. We've done 3 days. We're considering 2 days. So it's been like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. We're considering doing just a Friday night, Saturday, as we're talking about planning for this coming Christmas. And we'd like to invite Callahan House to be a part of the tour. And we think it would be really special because there's so much history here. It was interesting, as a Longmont resident, I had never been in. Driven by I don't know how many times.
You hear
seen it
that.
and heard it.
We're working on it. We'll hear that.
It's interesting. It's fascinating. And I think it would be a neat way to invite the community in, for those that have seen or have not seen this Christmas time. The Gift to Home Tour is a fundraiser for Habitat. And we're looking to see what would work best for Callahan House. So we would not necessarily have to have a vendor selling anything, or if we wanted to do something, say in one room, we could do that. But again, we would want to just kind of see what would work best. I think just being able to put the home on the tour would be really special. There's people that attend the Gift to Home Tour because they like the kind of beginning of Christmas shopping, and because it's mostly kind of Christmas gifts and Christmas decorations that are usually sold. There are other people that like to see the homes, and I'm really going to try to focus this year on getting some other old town homes and traditional or historic homes. We find those to be most interesting. In the past, we've also done Habitat homes, and so that might be a piece as well. Other reasons people enjoy it, we do a kind of VIP party, usually with the opening night, where for an additional price than they take, because people could come, get some food, gather, and then either start out visiting homes and then go to the party, or go to the party and visit homes after, or some combination of the two.
So if you go to just Friday and Saturday, will that VIP go away?
I don't think so. I think we would still try to do that and maybe just bump the hour a little bit.
So what hours are we looking at that people would be through the houses?
Typically we've gone something like 4 to 8 on an evening, and during the day we've gone as early as like 10 to 2. I think we would want to keep it in that 3 to 4 hour range
Per day.
And there's some flexibility in that as we set our schedule. Mm-hmm. So we could always work together to see what that might look like.
But you would determine that schedule, and then every home would be the same time frame.
Correct.
And the individuals drive themselves to the house?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, so the individuals go house to house. We get volunteers to help staff the house as needed. And so traditionally in the past, we would hire what we call a house manager, kind of a liaison between the homeowner and the public, and also between them and Habitat. And they're paid to coordinate and be on site and be kind of a point of contact for making sure that everything runs smoothly. We solicit volunteers and we station them in the home to kind of guide things, keep an eye on things, make sure that the flow is smooth and easy. We typically have people put on booties at the front door, that kind of thing. We set up trash cans and snacks for the volunteers. We've done food in homes at times in the past. Last year we did not, and I think that went well. I've only had personal experience with this past year. So I think having food and drink at the VIP party was nice, and it's like one location we can do that, and then the home tour can just be the home tour.
Mm-hmm. What about floor coverings and protecting things in the
It sounds
house?
like we've had the opportunity or ability to do that if as needed. So if there's something we can, we've had I know in talking to some of the houses last year, they took up rugs and they asked to put down others, or we could put down runners or walkways, something like that. So it depends on.
So if we want runners, that's something that you guys could supply.
We could help us. We could help with.
And there's booties that everybody has to wear, the hospital booties.
How many people do you expect to come through?
That's a great question. Last year we sold more than 350 tickets.
Okay.
In past years, that has gone as much as 700 people.
Okay. Do you expect it to be more?
I would
than,
expect it to be more, but not that many.
like 400.
Yeah, I
maybe?
think that's probably a good target
Okay.
number.
And then for the sales of the vendor items, if we do decide to have any of that, is a Habitat person responsible for doing those sales?
So the vendor themselves comes in and they staff.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so they do all the sales, they do all the checkout, and then
Okay.
hopefully they do a portion in donation to Habitat.
Okay.
And
Could we have our own donation, cash donations collection for Callahan House? That's what we typically do at open houses, but we could still do that
absolutely.
along with.
I
Okay.
don't see why we couldn't do that.
Okay.
I think we're trying to partner in a way that makes sense for Callahan House.
But there's and what is the ticket price for people?
We've gone as low as kind of $25. Usually it's around the $35 range, up to $45. It's probably going to be in that $30 to $45 range. We're talking now, do we want to make maybe a less expensive ticket in order to try to increase sales? It depends a bit on how many sponsors we get. Another part of the fundraising is we do have sponsorship, and so most of it's corporate sponsors, and so they get their names and logos into the program, and then possibly in signage. We also have a vendor that would help with exterior lighting if you would like to participate in that.
Like exterior decorating lighting? Like,
Yes, like Christmas lights.
Cool.
And so they would come, they would set it up, and they would leave it up through the season
Mm.
and take it down after Christmas.
That'd be for
They're-
the exterior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Their cost depends on the home
And it
features.
does, and they donate it to us, to Habitat.
Okay.
So you would not have to pay for it.
Okay.
when do you need? Sorry,
Okay,
before.
go.
I was just gonna say, when do you need to know if we want to be in this?
We would love to hear back in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks. So we have a little time to discuss and have questions. But kind of the sooner we can set our homes, the better everything goes in our planning.
Are
Absolutely.
you aiming for 3 or 4 this year?
I think we're going to get 3.
3. Okay.
Okay. So one could be the Callahan House,
Yes.
one might be a Habitat House,
Right.
and one would be.
It could be a community member. It could be another historic. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how about the decorations interior-wise? You mentioned we could decorate ourselves, or
Correct.
perhaps a designer vendor
Mhm.
could decorate it.
That's correct.
Now, do we have okay. So do we know what would be decorated for Christmas anyway? So I guess one question is, some comes in the beginning of December, decorates, or they're going to take things down once the tour's over,
That's correct.
and then we come in and do whatever
Yeah.
we want to do for the rest of the
Right.
season.
Or if you decorated for the season early, we could not do the vendor at all. Or if you decorated for the season early, we could have a vendor come in and just do a room.
Could enhance it or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could they? Typically, our decor consists of a tree in each room
Nice.
that are decorated differently. There's not a lot more than that. There's a few little things, and then we do some on the outside. But could they just kind of add to? Because I don't know. I haven't seen this tour. I don't know what like the level is, but I don't want us to be under the expected level of other homes
I
in terms
think,
of
based on what I've
quantity.
seeing the house, if you did what you usually do, it would probably be sufficient.
just
because
because of the
it's-
features
You already
of the
have
home
the house itself,
anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to hide a lot of those
Sure.
features, which might happen if we
Right.
over-decorate. But it might be nice to do some kind of combination where the vendor, if they come in with something, can just take it right out and we're still good to go.
Yeah. I'm not.
Well, you
I would
mentioned-
want to discuss more about the vendor here or not. In that,
Like which vendor would be appropriate of the ones
that
that you work
and,
with?
and I don't want the vendor to take away from what Callahan House is.
So
Would
is the-
you? Sorry, go ahead.
Is the vendor advertising their own business through the decorations? Okay.
So you mentioned you could do just one room, for example. How would you feel about the automobile house being that one room that is specifically only for the vendors?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Would we have a say in the vendor or type of vendor we would
I would
host here?
I would want your input.
Yeah.
So we've done someone like Longmont Florist is
Mhm.
decorated, Bricks on Main, Adorn. Those are kind of the most recent. So someone like that, and getting your feedback and input would be important.
Longmont Florist is one of our preferred vendors, so that could be a cool
Yeah.
potential connection for us.
So a
I
vendor
don't think
could
you can
be
go wrong with flowers.
vendor
Sorry.
could be either an automobile house or maybe the room upstairs.
I think it might depend on the vendor.
Right.
We might, if it's something that feels very appropriate, we might want to highlight them in one of the main rooms.
Well, vendors are one of selling things,
Right.
not a decorator.
Sure.
So okay.
But
But
they're
what is it?
decorating.
They decorate
They
and-
decorate, and
Yeah,
then
that's
the
things.
decorations are for sale. So I think depending on the vendor and the level of connection or appropriateness to the time period of the home, we could decide the space from there.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we want to not highlight the vendor selling, but downplay them. They could be. I think the visual would be the house and decoration. Vendor could be, could be upstairs or in the garage, something like that. And
Again, I think it
not
depends
being
on the
main
vendor. Yeah. if
Well,
it's-
also what we want. I don't think we would necessarily want the vendor
Right, but
not to be the major focus.
depending on the vendor and how appropriate they are to
Correct.
the house,
That's
we
right.
could choose
Yeah.
the location.
And again, the timing of the vendor coming in and setting up and decorating is how many days prior?
They
to it?
typically start 2 to 3 days prior,
Okay, and then cleanup is.
and they try to do that. If we do the Saturday, they would try to be finished by Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
Some have had to go to Sunday, but I think that's typically, if we go till noon, it maybe take them 2 to 3 hours to.
Go ahead.
Sometimes we'll have volunteers help with the takedown.
But it's all 3 homes or 3 to 4 homes are available for all 2 to 3 days.
That's right.
Right. It's okay.
Yes. So a person might go on a Friday to all the homes,
Mm-hmm.
or Saturday to all the homes. We typically do not encourage multiple days.
Okay.
It's kind of one or the other.
How are the tickets sold? Is it just open
It
to
is
however you want to
open.
do it once
It's
you buy a ticket?
online. It's paper tickets.
Okay. So people
And
could
so-
potentially visit more than once.
Yes.
Okay.
We
And does your house manager on site, is that person available to sell a ticket at the door if somebody's just walking up?
yes. Typically, we try to do pre-sale for everything.
Right, of course.
But yeah, there's kind of an on-site
Somebody.
way to do that as well.
Okay. Because, yeah, sometimes we have
Sure,
walk-ups and
walk-ins.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
What's going on here? Let's-
Now we can organize volunteers ourselves also, right?
yes.
To be in the rooms and stuff. And that's
So if
always
you'd like to
kind of fun.
manage volunteers, the Callahan House could, or we could help, or we could do some combination.
Yeah. And what's the other question?
All right.
Shoot. Oh, your locations are secret. And that's a new twist on it. So the advertising,
I would think if we decide to partner together, we would probably promote Callahan House early.
which, okay.
In that, I think it would generate more interest and help with ticket sales.
I think knowing ahead of time sometimes that really
Yeah.
makes people decide, yes, I'm going to go or not.
And can we do our own promotion that we would normally do with the city?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good partnership.
I think it seems to make sense. We considered the gift to home tour is an undertaking, and it takes a lot of effort and manpower for Habitat. And so we measure kind of the financial benefit from the fundraising. We measure kind of the community benefit, just awareness for Habitat. We also want to maintain the tradition, and so yeah, again we're back on board for this year again.
That's very cool. Yeah.
So this gift of house tour, who is actually the organizer? Who's responsible for this?
So Habitat we have one of our board members is an event planner, and so we hire her to be our event planner for the event.
So Habitat is totally responsible for the entire.
Yep.
Okay.
And so within our, say, we have an insurance policy that covers the event and anything that might happen in the homes, that kind of thing.
Is there alcohol at any point in this?
There's
shooting?
not at the homes, but there would be at the VIP event. So,
And that's regulated, I'm sure, so we don't have people drinking and driving.
so
to
what we
houses.
do is, we say maybe here's a 1-drink ticket. Now, it's possible that someone could go beyond that, but it's not like an open bar, and then we send them out into the street.
And where does the VIP event take place?
Last year we did at the Parkway Food Hall.
Okay, so
Oh,
it's
cool.
not one of the homes.
It is not.
Always a separate location.
Yeah.
And it was after the event. Or no, you could do it
You
between.
could do before, but
Whenever you wanted, yeah. I really prefer to be off-site and not trying to eat in somebody's home.
Right.
Yeah,
That
I
was
think
kind of
that's
awkward
nice.
the year we did that. So
We're discussing a possibility. We have some homes to be started this year at Rogers Road, which is kind of just south of 3rd Avenue, east of the railroad tracks, where we might do some kind of vendor fair in the garages of Habitat homes, something like that. So we'll see how that may come together.
Yeah.
If we do that, we may not do vendors in the homes. So that's still,
So that would
To be
totally change our aspect of what we would be responsible for as far as
Yes.
decorating and things if you did that and not
that's correct.
took the vendors to that.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Or we could do some combination as well.
yeah, if
Where-
we're planning to do most of the decorating with our usual stuff because we
Right.
need it for like the whole month,
Right.
it
Right.
doesn't change it too much
Okay.
other than the one space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if there were things you wanted to sell, right? Could we still? We sometimes sell merch.
Oh yeah, like our
Yeah.
Callahan stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Can we also sell Callahan merchandise if we do have a vendor in house?
I would want to talk about it. I don't see why we couldn't figure something out. Yeah.
What do we
I think it makes sense because Callahan
Okay,
does its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
To
It's like Callahan House artwork. There's a little booklet, a DVD.
yeah,
There will be postcards.
sure.
Information about the
There
I
on
think that,
that.
that's
Very,
reasonable.
very minor things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a few
Yeah.
things,
It's not
and
going to
then
be
if they're
competing
specifically
with the
Callahan House related.
holiday decoration. It's not going to be competing with that.
Yeah, it's nothing that would be. Yeah, it's all Callahan specific. So
Yeah.
Nice. What are the questions?
I was just going to ask, does anyone have any other questions? This
Is-
has been very helpful.
Since it is a fundraiser, do the homeowners pay to be in this
They do
program?
not. Typically, when it's a homeowner, we'll put them up for a couple nights at a hotel or an Airbnb, or they can stay in the home if they'd like. But sometimes it's easier just to vacate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be like,
I know. Yeah.
Is there any compensation from Habitat to the homeowner?
We do kind of a gift, but not. No, we don't pay them
Yeah.
for the home.
It's fun to go stay in a hotel for a couple days.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's,
Mini
it's a
getaway.
it's a big ask and a really generous donation when people offer their homes to do that.
I think this is very cool.
I think that'd be a win-win for Habitat and also for Callahan House.
Yeah.
And certainly will give more exposure for our house to the community.
Right.
And it seems like it, in our viewpoint, be a gem for you guys.
No, very much so.
A big draw.
Yeah.
Cool.
And fulfill our, community outreach goals and whatnot as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool.
Well, Chris, thank you again
Yeah.
for coming
Yes,
this morning.
Thank you for
sharing
giving me
all of this
time. Thank you for the
information.
invitation. Let's we can kind of figure out next steps, but talk about it if you want to. Yeah.
Kept your card, but
Thank you.
give your full
Yeah,
back
if
so you
there's-
can use
If there's
that.
more cards here, I'll just leave.
Oh.
If maybe I'll collect gift to home programs and bring them by.
That'd be great. And then I think the only other outline question is whether or not we can do merchandise sales and then some things that you're figuring out about
Yeah, I was gonna
if
keep
there's a
that.
market this year and things
Sure,
like that.
just checking.
But I think we can probably we plan to be making a final decision at our next board meeting, which is in 4 weeks. So
Great.
if that works for your timeline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe between now and then, if you have a list of other questions,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
can send an email.
Sure.
And if there's anything that we have that comes up, we can pass on as well.
Great. Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me
Thank
this
you.
morning. Thank you for considering
you.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks so
And
much.
thanks for the work that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Special.
So as far as the dates, you mentioned typically the first week or
We've
so.
gone
So
as
just an
early as
idea.
the last few days of November, but typically it's in those first few days or first week of December. So I
Yeah,
haven't
the
looked
first
yet.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's
Yeah.
always traditionally been.
Yeah,
Just to look at our calendar and see,
Yeah,
make sure it works.
would be
okay.
the 5th and the 6th this year.
something like that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank you
again.
so much.
Thank you. Say hi to Nicole.
Thanks.
Totally.
All right, so with our change up in the
Chris.
agenda, we'll now switch over to
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
approval of the minutes, and everyone's had the opportunity to review the final minutes. And any other discussion? Okay.
They were well done.
They're well
Yeah.
done. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes.
So, all in favor to, well, I should say, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Diana moves to approve. Do we
I
have
second.
Julie seconds.
The agenda.
All in favor? Unanimously.
We'll skip to the minutes.
Okay.
Unanimously.
So minutes are good.
Minutes are good.
Okay.
And now we can move on to old business and the digitized scrapbook. Do we have much to talk about, or should
A
we?
quick little, yeah. So actually, I met with Ian Belter, and I understand the process now. And so I had sent Maureen an ask for her to fill in some of the alt text for some images and things like that. And so she's got that project on her lap. May want some help with it. She's not here today. I guess we can talk about that. But I'm waiting on that from her, and then we can get the first one uploaded. So yeah, and then still just kind of the task here from you all is making some connections about the audio recording piece. So
I had a quick question. How would everyone feel about some history professors being part of the audio portion of that?
anybody who's
There's
interested and
some professors that may be interested in helping with the project that way.
yeah.
Wow. I knew we focused on trying to look at students, which I'm definitely still, interested in. But then my mind went to,
I ran across another resource that might be possible. I haven't called yet, but Colorado Talking Books, Teresa Keller is a number that I have, and I don't know exactly where I found it now anymore, but I wrote it down. So I thought I'd call her and see if that is something that they actually do.
That'd be helpful just to
Yeah, I would
Learn
say
about.
there's no need to wait to start making connections because we can get this project underway anytime. And as we're uploading the books, it will say audio to come or whatever. But we want to not have months or years in between that portion being available.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anybody that knows anybody, if you would start reaching out, that'd be great.
Okay.
Oh, and then the other question was about some potential digital scrapbooking, and we can do that in Canva, which the city has accounts for. So
Nice.
there's some potential
I'm sorry.
for that. Maureen had asked at the last meeting about potential digital scrapbooking, not just getting these digitized, but future scrapbooks. I think being the digital version being the main starting point. And so if there was a platform to do that, and we can do that in Canva, which the city has an
Canva.
account for that.
Spelled C-A-N-V-A?
C-A-N-V-A, yep.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then I guess we're next on to updated video.
Yes. So I had sent out the draft. I guess the first thing I want to ask, I don't know if anybody saw my email. We had the committee meeting set for Friday, and then I actually reviewed it finally Tuesday night or whatever that was, or Monday night. And was anybody else seeing the stripes?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I mean, it's not, but the reason I ask is because, so I emailed Jamal and he got back to me this morning early. I haven't actually had a chance to look at it yet, but he said he wasn't seeing that on his end or any of those issues. So he re-uploaded another draft. So he sent it at 6 a.m. and I haven't had a chance to actually look and see if those things are fixed or not. But I'll look at that today as soon as we're done. And if they are fixed, then I think we should go ahead and meet on Friday. If they're not, then he needs to fix those things before. I just think there's no point not having a clean draft to review.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not looking at it before setting up the committee meeting. Normally, that's been fine, but it seemed silly to have a meeting just for there to be a bunch of clear issues. So I'll review that today and get back to you about the committee meeting if people are still potentially available, if those things are fixed. The other question I had very quickly, Diana, you mentioned Lamomo Maze. Is that in the video somewhere that I'm not
It's
seeing?
in the bridal thing.
It's in the video.
It's one of the bridal vendors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They are
not in the video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
sorry.
I was like, is it listed somewhere?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that. I
No,
wasn't
that's
clear.
okay. They are an active vendor.
Okay.
There was some, not to go into too much detail, but there was they were in conjunction with, I think it was Longmont Bakery, and then they split off, and Longmont Bakery closed, but Lamomo Maze is still active. So I appreciate that, though, because sometimes vendors won't update venues if things change, so it is good to know.
Okay.
But they are still an active vendor. So yeah, that's where of the video. I'll review that and see if those things are fixed, and then
Forward the whatever version he
Yeah.
sent to you if
yeah.
it does.
But I'll let you know
if
either
it's
way
looking
today.
right.
Like, yes, we're meeting Friday, or no, we're not. If that still works for everybody. So sorry about the confusion there. But anyway, that's where we're at. I did also confirm that we will have the rights to the video, so if we want to make a shortened version later, we can do that. So that's good also.
And we can do that ourselves.
We can do that ourselves, or with
City,
Longmont Public
right.
Media. Yeah. So that's good because I
That's
think
excellent.
we'll want to
After all this,
Yeah.
have
work in
video.
a different direction eventually. Yeah. So, okay, that's all for the video.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then on to patrons of the Callahan House. So the committee did meet and finalize the forms, and of that's in the packet. So now at this point, we would like to, I believe, if the committee, I think that the committee believes that this is the appropriate time to submit these documents as they are to legal department and to communications for their review and approval. However, the city needs to do that. We'd like to go ahead and do that fairly quickly, though, because our objective would be to have these accepted or approved, or if there's any little change or something, then we can get that done well in advance of the spring open house. Our hope is that we will have these available before then, and may want to share a little bit of a surprise email with our email list of Callahan House visitors of a new program that we are unveiling.
In conjunction with promoting the open house, or
Yes.
separate? Okay.
So that's the timing and the turnaround on it. So
Yeah, I think does
I
anybody
think-
besides legal need to review?
You could probably just put in the legal star.
Yeah.
okay. So do we have any other discussion on this?
Well, I presume that someone at some point will be checking the links to make sure they actually work.
And yes,
Yeah.
Brittany,
Well, those
can
need to be
you-
set up first
Right,
of
set
all.
up.
But yeah.
Can you let me know when you're available so I can tell you what exactly needs to connect to what, and because that's what I've mentioned to you.
Yeah, I think-
just take about an hour to make sure we've got that all ironed out. 'Cause
Yeah, I think I need some time on the back end to see like what can work and put some things together, and then maybe we can review it. Because I think it
Well,
feels
we-
pretty straightforward to me, like what needs to happen here. So I just need to find out in terms of the website, like what the options are for how that works. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, for the patrons of the Callahan House donor form, that we would like this entire form to actually be what it clicks to. And so then they're going to need to be able to input information here. They're going to need to be able to click the boxes.
Yep.
They're going to need to be able to click on this link, and this link is going to be streamlined only for patrons of the Callahan House, not the rev track where people get kind of a drop-down list of options of what to select and then go on into the next.
I mean, we
So
can
that's kind
accept
of some of
money
the
through
stuff I was-
WebTrack. That's the
Yes,
platform.
yes.
But
We just don't want anything else to be an option. When they do click on that, we want it entirely streamlined only for this program.
Mm-hmm.
There's no drop-down list then anymore. So that's kind of some of the technical stuff I wanted to share with you.
yeah.
So
Well,
maybe
it's,
let's
but it's just a matter of what is possible.
yeah.
But
It-
yeah.
it is, but that's
So yeah, we can chat.
the objective. Okay, so yeah, let me know when you're available.
You
We'll get
have
that
the
done.
Word document of this?
All right, so do we have a
I
motion
don't have the
to
new ones.
move these on to the legal department for review and approval?
Yes.
Cindy moves and
Second.
Jeff seconds and all in favor. And that's unanimous. And that's unanimous. So that moves on.
Better raise your hand.
Think for my own motion.
And that moves on. Okay. Then we're at future restoration and preservation. What's the status update?
Yeah. So I did connect with Dan from Antiques.
Yes.
What is the name?
Memory Lane.
Memory Lane. Thank you.
What is it? Memory Lane Antiques. Isn't
The,
that
thank
ironic?
you. Yeah, the ones that, or the gentleman that's
Dan
has
Stoss.
this open quote for the restoration for the dining set, and he's not moving. So
Anytime soon. Oh, good.
Yeah, or like he's not planning to in general.
Oh, okay.
So that's good. So that being said, I wanted to see what you all thought, but I imagine we want to wait for questers. I'd hope to get. Maureen did mention that they are working on a smaller grant that can come through quicker for just the table, and then working on a larger piece with the president's project to get the rest done. So I think we could potentially get some of it done in pieces if we want to start on some of it quicker.
Is that
So
going to increase
that-
our cost? Then we're going to have to pick up and delivery dates then.
Potentially, it's a good question. So that was what she mentioned the last time, is that that's a possibility. If we don't want to use questers, it is the house fund. That would be where the money would come from. So
But if the
since
questers
Dan is not planning to move and we still have to find 2 other quotes anyway, I don't see a reason to use the house fund money when questers wants to fund this as a project. But
I also feel like I don't have the form, but the delivery fee, I feel like it was not a lot.
yeah, I don't know. I don't
It
know
was
money either. But
It's like I thought it was only $200.
Oh.
I could be misremembering. I know we just looked at
My
it,
book.
but
Well,
I'd be in favor of doing it in pieces if that fee is pretty nominal. That way you can get this done with the money that the Questers is supporting, and then we can continue to work on rather than sitting on the whole project.
Yeah.
That would be, again,
It's $500.
See, I think
$500.
in the grand scheme of the money that's going
Right.
into that, I find that to be a pretty nominal number to be able to get your table.
And as far as fitting things in with weddings or whatever, if we
Yeah,
did
that's gonna be-
piecemeal, then it
Could
seemed
help.
like that would help.
could be helpful. Yeah.
Is it tables and chairs that they
I think
It sounded like just the table,
Okay.
and that like the chairs, the buffets would be separate. I don't know if that's 2 more separate pieces or separate projects, but that was just what she mentioned at the time. There's still, it sounds like a lot to be worked out with Questers and their timeline for this, but they are actively working on putting together.
from my understanding, questers won't really have their final funding until next year.
Potentially, yeah, it could be that the table gets done this year and the rest gets done next year. Yeah, there's, but it could, if we're waiting on it to be done all at once, it could be that all of it gets done next year.
Right. So the advantage of doing it in pieces, what are the advantages?
Well, it's, I don't know if you call it an advantage necessarily. It might be easier for events, for
Right.
everything not to be gone, and for just kind of keeping the ball rolling on the project. But
But the anticipation they would fund the entire project.
is still there. It sounds like they may have to do it through a couple of different avenues.
Okay.
And if need be, maybe the delivery fee could come out of the house fund.
Sure,
Right.
potentially, if that's something we
And
want
that
to
fee
do.
might change, because if it's just picking up a table, it's going to be less of a charge to pick up all the furniture.
Yeah.
But then again, they're coming back at the furniture later, so it might not be twice that number.
Yeah.
And then keeping in mind that in terms of the house fund, using any of that money, it takes at least a couple of months to appropriate that and have it available. And then the money that if Questers is able to even just donate that money back as a general donation, that question hasn't been answered yet. But if they are, that goes into donations, which eventually at the end of the year gets rolled up back into the house fund. So it's not a one-to-one. There's a process in which that money gets back into the house fund eventually, if Questers is even able to do like a grant as a reimbursement. So there's a lot of ifs there. To me, it seems a lot more straightforward to have Questers fund the project outright. This isn't, yes, this needs to be done and we want to get it done as soon as we can, but there's not really a need to rush it.
Well, my thought on this is, excuse me, swallow them. If we're going to piece this out, I would say the table and the chairs go first. And they do
Sure.
go together.
It depends. That may or may
Could
not.
we get a new quote from him?
Only
That's-
reason is
Yeah,
because
we wanted to split the project.
But it just depends on what
The
Questers
most-
can raise.
The only reason is that the most damaged pieces really are the chairs, the upholstery of the chairs.
The table and chairs.
And
There's
then-
a lot of
and
damage
then-
underneath the
yes,
table.
damage underneath, but you can even see on the leaves.
Mhm.
And so those are the most sightly things that
Yep.
need to be addressed. So
Yep.
if we're going to piece this out, the table and chairs go together.
If they can.
And
Maybe up to what Questers can raise and how they can raise it. So those are just questions that need to be answered still.
yeah.
And I do think if we could get a different quote, if there is there is talk about using the house fund to help fund some of this. So what would it look like to do just the tables and chairs? Is that something that the board wants to pay for and then wait on Questers to potentially help support something else? It's just to see what that cost would be. I think it wouldn't hurt to get a new quote of that's not all of it in one lump sum so that we can better assess.
They're
yeah,
itemized.
He had it. Yeah, he had
It's
it itemized so that
So we
we
know.
at least have a pretty good
Okay.
idea. It could be like the delivery portion,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, is different,
Mhm.
but it was itemized per
Yeah.
the four things
Yes,
basically.
The table
Um,
and the chairs.
So yeah, and that said too, if the quote is less because we're doing it piecemeal, another potential advantage to that is that we don't have to get 3 quotes because I don't know that we can
Right.
find 3 quotes
Right.
for one.
Could be under
But that is another potential advantage by piecemealing it. If one portion of thing or if any one portion of things is less than $10,000, we don't have to get 3 quotes for comparison. We can just move forward with our choice.
Yeah, sorry. Can you
Oh, no, I should have. I wasn't thinking.
I'm glad
we
I'm
were
good
going
for
into this
something.
detail, but it's helpful. Thank you. Well, if we are doing just the table and chairs, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and get it done, even if it's out of the house fund. All right. All right. So the table with all the leaves is $3,200.
What are the chairs?
The chairs, refinish and reupholster, is $17,960.
Okay. So we still,
That's
even
the
if we did
biggest
just
one.
the chairs as its own thing, we'd still have to
Yeah.
get 3 quotes for that. So
Well, again, the challenge is if we could ever find somebody else who can.
sure,
if
we
you-
have to
if you
show that
need-
we went through the process to try to
Okay.
get 3 quotes.
What do you need? Do you need company names that were contacted, that declined, or are no longer
Do you
in
have
business?
those?
Yes.
Sure.
I'm the one who went around asking, trying to get to find somebody.
Sure.
Newt's,
Yeah,
who
if
was
you
no longer in
have
business,
a
is
written
one.
statement that says you reached
Another
out
in
and
Longmont,
somebody
another
declined.
in Longmont, yes.
Sure. Okay.
So,
yeah, that was
Is it
not
that's
known
does
before,
that
but
streamline
that
it? Does that
would be
simplify it?
helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if that'll do it, I don't see any reason to wait on the table and chairs. Do you really want the chairs going through wedding season looking like this?
They've
have
been looking
before.
like this for
Yeah.
over a
I
decade. I don't know
but you're
what to tell you about that.
But you've redesigned the wedding packages. You're
Yeah.
you're promoting weddings, and I don't know what the guests would.
I guess
think
to
if
play
they're
devil's
looking at
advocate,
that.
what is the rush? There seems to be a
If
there
it
seems
can
to-
get
you
done,
feel like there's a big
why
rush.
wait? There are funds to do it, and the proper person to do the work. Why wait?
I
Those
say
are still
if
available.
we go ahead on our own, that's almost like saying to Questers, we need you.
No,
Yeah.
it's saying that this is more. This is we are going to be very excited to receive those funds, and we're definitely going to allocate the restoration of the furniture is with thanks to the questers.
They may not be able to
They'll
replace
get-
those funds if the project is
Right.
not active. So we need to get some questions answered. We need to hear more from questers,
Projects
and then
not
I think we can move forward. So
Nice.
Okay.
yeah, we've got a lot to
Well,
get through.
I guess
so
if we
let's
can
move
get
on.
more answers from questers about if
Mhm.
we're going to do some now, is that going to be a problem?
Well, it sounds like they had in mind to do some now. I think the big question is whether or not they could still fund, what would basically end up being a reimbursement for this project.
Right.
And if they can't, then do we still want to just use that money from the house fund, knowing that it's not going to get replenished?
And the question is whether they can, if the city will receive it,
No.
or whether they're able to.
Whether they can use that as a project
if,
we've
if
already-
if the project's already
is
begun.
already being funded. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good question we've got to get an answer to.
Yep.
Yeah. Will we have that by next month?
I don't know. The question's been out there for a while now, so
But they're having the turnover of their president.
Right, yeah.
So that's part
they're
of it.
working on figuring out what are their avenues for this right now.
Oh.
So
And it is a lot of money out of the house fund. I don't think it's like a small number. So when
No.
you look at what is available,
It would
that
be a third of
this-
the house
yeah,
fund.
it's definitely a lot. So if we could get support from someone else, I think that
What else are you marking those funds for then?
who knows? But if somebody is willing to donate to this project specifically, and these two questers groups have been talking about this project for the last year,
Right.
I don't know why suddenly when they are underway on this project that we would just use the house fund money that's been available this whole time. It just the timeline doesn't really make sense. But we need to get some questions answered, and then we can make a more informed decision.
Yeah.
So, also regarding restoration and preservation, what else do we have here? Oh, the sconce is coming back on Friday, so that will be done. I just got another quote this morning. Well, a combined quote this morning for the repointing, because originally the quote was part of the scope of work that was done in 2023 with a separate quote for the auto house. So we needed a new, like, refreshed combined quote for the repointing of the main house and the auto house in order to move forward with that. But I just got that this morning, so we should be able to move forward with Empire doing the repointing of the house finally, which has been something we've wanted to get done for a long time. And that will be PPF 145. So, and then the other piece was the parquet, which we're still waiting to get an initial quote from Empire for that. I think those were all the pieces right now that we've been talking about.
Okay, thanks. All right, we'll move on to the 2024 annual report. The committee did meet and review and the final updated version, which is also in the packet. A question came up after the committee meeting, and that was, should we include the name, the address, phone number, and email, basically the contact information somewhere on the report. So that is something we should decide. I did go ahead and add it exactly like we have it on the Patrons Program document. It's in the footer. So if you want to take a look, I'll pass this around. I just printed the one, but it's basically exactly like we have the Patrons documents at the footer of just the first page. So it is not every page, just the first page, right down at the. So I moved the logo up just a smidge, moved board members up just a smidge so that the spacing looks good, and then have that information at the bottom. So the question is, do we want to, we'll pass that way and then we'll pass it this way, do we want to include that contact information on the first page? That's the last question.
I think it looks fine.
Yeah.
I move that we accept the 2024 Callahan House annual report with the addition of the
Contact
footer,
information.
contact information.
Just on the first
Just
page.
on the first page.
Okay.
Mhm.
Second.
Okay, so Candy moved, Diana second. All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, any discussion? Sorry, any
Yeah,
further
are
discussion?
you accepting the entire report right now, or just that?
The entire report with the
Just
with
that.
Okay.
Wait, just this change?
Yeah.
Oh
No. I'm
We're-
saying
we're-
the
we're-
entire report
Yes,
with that change.
Yes, the entire report with this one additions, one
Good or
change on the
bad?
first page. And all of the exhibits that go along with it. I'm sorry, what was your...
The only discussion would be what if you also put it on the last page underneath the signature line? Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's
Um,
good discussion.
Yeah, I also wanted to
You
talk about
got
the
it.
attachments.
Mhm.
So everybody had a chance to review those, and just keeping in mind that like we're submitting all of those pages to council, and whether or not that is necessary. Just thinking about the scope of the items that they have to review and all of the annual reports that are being submitted, if they need to see the entire wedding packet and all of the other attachments. So just something to
And
think about.
Ben let me know that they're submitted as informational documents, that it's not actually on their agendas to be reviewing all of these. So it's just a digital document that they get that on their own time. It's not part of like their agendas to be reviewing board.
It is
Annual
put in
reports.
electronic form and it becomes city record. So for those reasons, I would say it's acceptable to go ahead and include all of the attachments.
I think it's fine for
Status of
information.
record, correct?
Yeah.
It becomes, it is the
just
record.
part of their
Yeah.
I think if
I
they
just-
don't want it, there'll be feedback,
Yeah.
right? That says,
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I
yeah.
don't think that they would.
I don't know. And just the awareness of like the amount of information that we're submitting that we're expecting them to review. I just want just
And
that
they may not
awareness.
look at it.
you know.
They may.
They have
Yeah.
the option to look at it or not,
Mhm.
but we're submitting to them everything, all the work that's been done for the Callahan House over the year.
Sure. And all of it is listed in the report itself.
Right.
Yeah, without necessarily needing to review, our DJ package and things like that. I'm just putting that out there, whether or not that information is
You
worth
sound
asking
hesitant.
their attention for,
We have always provided the attachments in the past.
Sure.
It's public record.
Yeah, I don't think they've been this extensive, but
Okay. Are we good?
okay.
I don't know that we have, but
We have, it's okay though. Yeah,
There were
it's-
a couple of attachments last year. Not 30-some pages, but I'm just putting that out there as something to think about.
This is an electronic version.
hmm
It's public record. There's no damage to the community, no damage to the environment.
It's public record in our packet. So whether or not it needs to be
The city
something
council
that we're
needs to see
asking
it.
them to review,
Whether they'll
in
review it or
their
not.
scope of work and what they're looking at
It
for the
is
city.
one annual report.
Okay. Yeah.
Are we looking
Again,
at-
that's fine if you want to put it in there. I'm just
So what is the purpose of the annual report?
To comply with our bylaws and the ordinance, which is that we will report to city council once, if not more, as requested annually. And that's to include all of what the board has been involved with or aware of and reviewed or advised on.
So the purpose is to submit to the city. Okay.
And then if the purpose is what the board has been involved with, some
all
of this is not
activities
necessarily
of the all
applicable.
activities of the house. All
Okay.
activities of the house.
And do they, obviously they review it.
Yeah.
Can they comment on it if they
They
so
can
choose?
if they so choose. Yeah.
Okay. Do they normally comment, or is this just informational? Okay.
It's typically informational.
Yeah.
So on the wedding package that's been created, the board vote on which DJ or the board vote on the caterers, or so that wasn't actually activities of the board.
No.
So that would
Activities
be
of the house.
like 4 pages or something.
Are you asking
Right.
how long the wedding package is that's being submitted as an attachment
Yeah, I mean,
to the
I
annual
read
report?
through it all,
Yeah.
and it looks great. But I'm just saying, I see your point, Brittany, of that if the board didn't vote on, the DJ's business or the
It's a
florist business
13-page
or-
packet. So, and I mean, I think it is important to list that was done. I don't know that the packet itself needs to be included. So these are the questions that I'm putting to you all.
But I like having the pages of like the branding,
Sure.
You know,
Yeah,
because
and that makes
was
sense
a
because
big
Harold,
activity.
the
Yeah.
city manager, was involved in that process, and the board did meet with Rachel, who put this together. Like the board was a little more involved in that process. So I think that certainly makes sense. The club pieces, potentially, the restoration and preservation, always. But I know the wedding packet, I think, is the big question. But it's up to you all. It's in the end, it is the report from the board. So if you want these things included, I'm just posing these questions. And I guess you can kind of think about it as like, if we're continuing to submit too much information, if things end up just kind of getting overlooked, then because that's the standard. Whereas if we're submitting more concise information, then things are getting reviewed more, which is what we would want.
I don't know that one annual report with comprehensive information is really overload. So, and again, it's an electronic format.
Luckily, yeah.
There is no harm there.
Okay. And just like I said, it's your report. I'm just posing the questions.
Well, it really isn't. It's Karen.
Well, it is the board's report.
Yeah.
It is the board's report.
I mean, it's not
Not-
not
no.
that Karen. Karen Reed's report.
But
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
the chairperson is not just the chairperson's report. It's the board's report.
Right, but it's the chairperson who was in charge of putting it together. So,
Yeah.
just saying.
All right.
Are we good?
Well,
So, I
is there any further discussion on this? And because I think at this point we're sort of splitting hairs, getting in the woods, and I'd rather we spend our time.
I think the
on
question
other
is
things.
just, do we want all of these attachments submitted? Do we want to nix the wedding package or any others? That would be my question. That's for you all to decide.
I think it's acceptable to attach everything. It captures everything that's been done with the house over the course of the year. Whether people will look at it or not, that is going to be up to whoever's eyes are on it.
Mhm.
But it also captures a time in history for future, those looking back and seeing what was done in the year 2024. And to have that package electronically, I don't see any harm in that.
Okay.
I kind of question the need for that wedding package to be in there at all. Just because, one, it does create extra things for them to look at. Two, you've already had it scrutinized by whoever you have worked with all along.
Yeah, it's been approved by the city manager. I mean,
Exactly. So if they have questions about it, it's easily gotten by contacting you. And so I would say that that's one way of cutting back on it. I'd say the more information you're putting out there, the more you're asking for people to nitpick and to examine things down to the last little tiny thing. And somebody's going to say this says something and somebody else says this, and it just kind of confuses and muddies the water. I say leave the brochure out. But there's a motion on the floor. I'm going to pull that motion back. Can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I repeal that motion I just made. Retract it, I guess is what I want to say. So now my new motion is that we submit the packet with the new contact information on the front page minus the wedding brochure. Does that summarize it?
So we need a second if this is
Is there a
fine.
second?
Who's second?
Is there?
Oh, I'm just asking.
Is there a
We
second?
need a second.
Well, can I say what I'm thinking before I second it?
yeah, if there's any
Well,
other
you
discussion.
can second it, and then there can be discussion after the second.
Okay, I'll second it.
And now,
And-
what other discussion is there?
I think when I see something that comes to me that's got 40 pages or 50 pages, I'm thinking, do I really want that? And I kind of thought that. And I certainly did go through everything, but it kind of, not only do they maybe nitpick, but ignore a lot of the information. I'm a bullet point person, so too much is, but that's my opinion. But I second Candy's.
Any
So
other
is this
discussion?
portion, did we say a few minutes ago, it was not a board activity?
It was shared with the board, but in terms of putting together the information and whatnot, no, that was done by myself and in conjunction with our branding person for the city.
As part of your job.
Yeah, and I will. I mean, the nitpicking doesn't scare me. I'm very proud of putting this together. It was a lot of work, and but I think we're asking for things to.
And how many
I think we need to
pages
have
is
a
it?
reasonable expectation of what we are expecting to be reviewed. And I don't think that this necessarily falls within the scope of what City Council would review. And so I would rather them be able to focus in on pertinent information that might pertain more to their overview of Callahan House.
So if this motion passes, it would be a matter of deleting the little phrase that says "see attachment" for the wedding package.
Sure, yeah, because we still want to mention that as something that took place this year. It's important, but whether or not the actual full wedding packet needs to be included is the question.
Do you
So-
think if any city council member was approached by a citizen and was stating they weren't thinking that the rates of the Callahan House were fair or reasonable, do you think the city council member might want to be able to look back at what your packet entails and
I think that's a
better
really big
inform
hypothetical
themselves?
situation, and I think it's time to put this to a vote. The other possibility is we could have just the packages included. Like, there's one page that says, here are the rates, and here are the packages that could be included without all of the information about what to do if the weather's bad and where to park and things that are just really not pertinent.
I call for the vote.
I was just reading this. It says wedding packages are rebuilt to align with industry standard and increase net profits from the wedding rentals.
Mhm.
So I agree with the rental, just the rental page. From the
Yeah, if we want to
Different to
include
have
just the
rental
package,
package.
like just this page that has the prices listed, and you could just
Because if
amend
that was
that
the
little
act of the
statement that
board.
says like prices, prices included in attachment or whatever. If anything, maybe just this page with the rates,
And we would be
but.
deleting or removing what portion of this?
Well, this would, so the wedding packet is 13 pages. We would just include, if that's where the direction we want to go, we would just include this package that has the rates listed and not the rest of the information about what DJ do we use and what photographer do we use and
I think
where
that
do
would
people
make
park.
it a more attractive document to sift through.
Yeah.
And that
And
aligns
that
with the
information
bullet
is the
point.
most pertinent. Yes, it does.
Cool.
Okay, so
I
we have a
amend.
motion, we have a second.
Second.
So
Yeah,
should we go
discussion.
ahead and, we've had discussion, should we go ahead and vote on that motion and then another motion can be made?
I think Candy can just amend her motion.
I would like to amend that last motion. I would move that we submit the packet with the contact information on the cover page and include the wedding packet with rates only page instead of the entire wedding packet.
Well,
Okay,
A second.
it's a new motion, the second by whoever, Julie.
Would there be any purpose to refer to wedding package? That's not, if it's not included in this document, would there be any reason to have a statement saying the wedding package is available?
They know where to get it.
Okay.
Yeah, they would know where to get it. So I call for the vote.
All right, all those in favor?
I need to,
You need to,
yeah, I'm in favor.
everyone's in favor? Cindy, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay, so that unanimously.
So who was not in favor?
It unanimously passes.
Okay, thank you.
You don't want this in.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so next And by the way, do we have financial numbers yet?
Yes. Oh, thank you for bringing that up. So actually, well, yes and no. Basically, we got numbers from the finance office that can be that are considered to be as close as they can foretell at this point, but the final numbers will not be available until the end of May this year for whatever reason. But I did get numbers that I feel that the finance office feels are sufficient to submit for the report. That might change very minutely, if at all. But final numbers won't be available until the end of May, so I don't know that we want to wait that long. But thank you for bringing that up. So I would pose that to you all. These are the numbers if you want to take a look. They're on the top.
Would you be able? Yeah, I was going to say, would you be able to forward those to me? I'll put them in the report as it is. That will be what is included.
Well, that's the
one
question
page.
now: is do we want to go ahead and move forward with those numbers, or do we want to wait till May to make sure that the numbers are finalized, or if they might change slightly? And
I
that
think it's
said,
acceptable if it's close enough. I
yeah,
think
and
it's
that said
acceptable.
that we've got some final numbers now, even for like 2023, because of like
Oh, yeah, I
that
noticed
change
that.
later. So it's not different, I guess, than what we did last year. That the numbers could change even after we submitted the report.
Yeah, if this is close enough, then let's.
I think so. Yeah.
Is this acceptable to everyone to use these numbers? If it assumes
Yes.
that these are close enough to include in the report.
And do we
This
want to
is-
edit the numbers from 2023, even though they were submitted slightly differently for comparison? Because it will, they're listed on here as 2022, 23, 24.
I thought it was kind of odd that it said ended in August. On
Unless it changes the end value and the beginning
not that
value.
one, the one that was online in the. Or,
I'm not
Unless
sure what
it,
you mean. Sorry, Julia.
here's my response on that. Unless it
Okay.
changes the ending value of the year and the beginning value of 2024, then I'd say no. If it changes the ending value of
It does, yeah,
2024,
the
then
fund-
we
the fund
do
balance
need
did
to,
change, yeah.
Amend that because
Okay.
what they're going to look at is from year to year, carryover from
Yeah.
one year to the next.
Yeah,
And I think it does need to match.
Yep. Okay.
And we can make a statement that if you're okay with this, we can make a statement just below it stating that 2023 numbers were updated given most
Sure.
current data
Sure.
because that's on file. So okay, so if you'll get that to me and then I can make that update and then I can go ahead and share that with everyone so everyone sees that file
Okay.
and that's it. And then it can be submitted to clerk's office for the city manager to go over with the council to include in upcoming meetings. Well, all right. Then on to restricted areas encampment.
So we did get, this is kind of the second review of rates in terms of the fencing, but includes some wrought iron and some aluminum options. So quotes from two different companies on each page here. So basically the original wood comparison, and then wrought iron and aluminum from Ideal Fencing, and then some different kind of design options that they have available. And then on the back page of that is High Point Fencing. They don't offer a wrought iron option. It's an ornamental steel, but as you can see, looks similar to wrought iron or the aluminum. The Ideal Fencing, is the three different rates there for comparison, and then the ornamental steel had three different designs of fencing with the different rates there. So, the original wood, and we're talking about just this portion back here, the lattice fencing that was going to go across this section of the the north lawn with the garden shed.
It's just that one section.
Just that one section would be, the privacy fence going around the back of it would still be wood as it is now. And, so I guess thoughts on the difference in price and design, and if we want to move forward. I think the wrought iron is maybe not, just economically, that's a major difference. But some of the aluminum and some of the ornamental steel options are more reasonable. The other thing to consider is this The High Point fencing quote was the lowest, but we're not necessarily sure that that's one that we want to accept just based on the scope of the work and some concern that the price is almost a little too low. Worth some thoughts from, I think, from Ben, and I don't know if Jeff had a chance to review it, but so those are just some thoughts there. I think the ornamental steel or the aluminum is a reasonable upgrade. I think the wrought iron is not necessarily reasonable.
The wrought iron and material is more consistent to what's on the property now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to consider is these are very open, which may be good or bad. But if that space, gets gated off, I just don't want it to look, Parks still maintains the entire space and whatnot. I realistically may have to stay on them more to keep maintaining that space since I just don't want it to look like a closed off space where you can see in it and it just doesn't look, has the same, quality aesthetic as the rest of the garden. So it's something to consider, that being able to see into that space, whether or not that's a good thing. I don't know.
Is there any reason why they can't maintain that?
No, they can and they should. I just foresee that being a constant battle, which I'm not unwilling to fight. I just think it will be an ongoing process to make sure it is maintained, which is fine. It's just something to consider, like whether or not that being open to view is a good thing or not. It's a question. I'm not sure, but yeah, and then some different kind of stylistic options. So I guess just to kind of streamline the thought process here is whether or not we're still interested in moving forward with, I think, an aluminum or an ornamental steel option, and what sort of aesthetic, looking at these, is this still of interest to do that instead of the wood, and what sort of aesthetic is of interest.
So what kind
And
of,
keeping in mind that this is a much more permanent situation than wood. If in future, I don't know why this would happen, but if in future we deem that fencing needs to be changed, it's more difficult to change this than a wood fence option. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. These are just questions.
Do they make the white vinyl in black? The slats?
Oh, probably. Hadn't thought about that. Because it would be closed off, but it's black.
And it would, they'll carry the black and be more pleasing than the wooden fence, maybe.
Yeah, I've never seen black.
I haven't
but
either.
The issue
That's why
with
I asked.
vinyl is that
White.
the black absorbs heat, which can affect the stability of the vinyl product.
And the other thing I'd like to put forward is the weather's getting warmer. We want to move forward with this project as soon as possible, so that we're not having the issues that we.
And we're looking at something 5 or
been
6 feet
having.
high, so people can't.
I
Well,
think
what
so,
height are we
yeah.
talking about?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. The other piece, just before I forget to talk about it, is the outhouse. The question here on the outhouse about whether the sides should be raised. We do want to keep that. The reason being is the bar runs, I don't have these photos, but I can pull them up from the last meeting. The bar runs right across the top. And so people could just climb that really easily and get down into that space, where if it's raised, they're not going to be able to get over that and access the bars to climb down.
but we talked
So that was
about
the
that
purpose.
last time, and that the gate that's going to go across the way, blocking the stairwell.
But the gate doesn't have the bar, like the climbing bars. So
Yeah,
that
but
was,
you can just step over that and into the stairwell.
I mean, potentially, but each element that's there that makes it harder to climb, I think, is worthwhile, since that's the purpose of us continuing that around, so that people can't just climb down there. Because with the gate, there's not like a bar to climb into. So, but on the other side, there's a bar there.
Like
So,
a step down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can just climb right into
Well,
it.
there's a bar on the inside, and so someone can step over the gate hanging onto that bar and then just easily step down and hold on to the handrail.
I mean, sure. The point is, if somebody really wants to get in there, they're going to get in there unless we fence off the entire thing. But making it as difficult as we can without impeding the aesthetic any more than we need to, I think, is the way to go.
Because I think Jeff was the one talking about not having it go up higher. Right.
Yeah.
And I agree, because it's ugly.
I mean, it's ugly either way, to be
Well, it
honest.
is, but
so.
at least the ugly stops at the bar that goes, that's,
It's just, the whole point is
Horizontal.
making access not easy, and that makes it less easy for somebody to climb into there by having that additional height.
Be nice to replace that railing in total on the auto house at some point.
right.
But
So are you going to
This was from
make
last
yet an
meeting's packet. Last
additional,
month's.
Oh, okay.
are you going to add an additional horizontal bar that goes across the top to secure the fence to?
No, because the point then is that people can just climb.
So
using
it's just
those
going to be a
bars.
free hanging,
I mean, it's secured to the
Fence?
vertical bars that are there.
To that bar and to that bar.
Or there could potentially
is
be
no-
some kind of like ribbing across the top, but putting in another pole where people can climb onto defeats the purpose.
I'm not a fan, but that's just my opinion.
And would it be a higher gate or just?
It's just that gate.
Unfortunately, it can only be that because of the windowsill that's there.
Ah.
Yeah.
So.
This goes into the basement.
Of the outhouse, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
And we've
I
got
think,
stuff
you know,
stored in the basement.
it doesn't get used much, but unfortunately, people are going down into that space and using it as bathroom. So this is
I'm just.
what we're trying to negate. So I think if you want, a little bit of extra fencing, or if you want people using that space as a bathroom,
I thought we talked about the idea that, generally if someone's having to jump a fence, that's clear enough that they're doing something wrong and potentially illegal. So there was no need to increase the height.
I mean, it
And-
can be,
and putting
hopefully,
the gate
but
on the stairwell was definitely that other, object that is like if you were climbing over that gate, yes, you are potentially
yeah,
doing
that
something
is
illegal.
the
I thought
hope
we
that people
talked
like
about
having
that.
a gate there in general is helpful. But I mean, people do all kinds of things to get into the spaces that they need to get into. In fact, we also have a quote for lighting, and the gentleman that came out and was talking to us about lighting for these issues was relaying all the things that people do to try to negate lighting in the areas where they want to sleep and things like that. So,
And the feedback was from Ben, my supervisor, about the extra. To get clarification on that was a direction from him.
yeah, the importance of that piece
Yeah.
for the purpose of making it more difficult for people to climb down there. Again, if somebody really wants to access that space, unless we gate off the entire thing, they're going to be able to do it. But making it more difficult is the purpose. So,
I thought that getting it all the way to the corner and then having that gate was sufficient. But if you're saying that Ben,
the advice
says
from
that
Ben
it
and
should
from
be-
the fencing companies is that the extra piece should be there. So,
It's too bad we can't make doors that just feel
Like storm doors.
Like
Mhm.
the basement
you walk,
access doors. Yeah.
walking down the street in downtown Denver,
Yeah.
those things that open up, just.
and we talked
cover all
about
of
that.
it.
The problem with that is then people are going to crawl into that space and be on top of the doors under the stairs out of the rain and whatnot. So we would still, like, if you had that piece, you'd still need the fencing piece because otherwise it still
Yeah.
creates a space. So we're trying to negate any of those enticing spaces.
So what are we looking at now as far as a decision or direction?
So I think the scope that we talked about for the gate behind the new shed and the auto house as is from the last meeting, and then the new piece being potentially the aluminum or ornamental steel here, if that's still the direction that you want to go. Moving forward with a choice on this fence that is now being looked at for the potential aluminum or
So for the
other
long
material.
fence, we need to make a decision on the material, eventually material, height, and design.
Yeah.
And then the gate by the shed, that's going to be, again, something similar to this?
That was just going to be the chain link, I thought, right?
Chain.
The new
Over
shed.
here?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that part of this?
No, it was just going to be chain link
Okay.
because that chain link gate is already there, so it would just be a continuation of that on
So
the
that's
side.
pretty much determined.
Yeah,
And then what goes around the stairwell in the auto houses needs to be.
is basically determined. Yeah.
All right, so the only thing we have anything to say on is this fence that goes from south to north in the north lawn.
So this,
All right, so what's the length of the life of a?
Yeah, the one that
Aluminum.
goes
Can you just
across
point out
here.
our picture?
Sure.
So,
What's the length of the life of an aluminum fence?
Is this one. So this fence here is going to be wood privacy, but then this one basically that would run across right here is what we're talking about for the aluminum. Wait.
So the length of life of an aluminum fence is?
I don't know. Is it listed there, Cindy?
It's going to be for a long time. unless
Oh,
it's
I'm
big.
sorry. Is it the length? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like,
not
how long
27
will
feet,
it
but like how
last?
long?
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I have to get that.
What is
information.
what is any maintenance for it? For an aluminum fence? Does
Right,
it require
okay.
regular painting? What does it require?
Aluminum usually comes pre-finished,
Mhm.
so the question would be how long is that finish anticipated to last?
Right.
And that's the question back to the manufacturer.
Right.
The steel, I'm not sure if that would require painting, so that would be a question. That would be a concern,
Yeah.
because that would require periodic painting. I think the wrought iron is a great solution, but I'm not sure it's really warranted for the price for back here. Right. So I would be okay not. If we're doing something up front, whole different story, but that I'd be okay with aluminum.
Right.
So I'd be happy if we or whoever's interested, we can look at that closer. Be nice to actually see actual products in person, just see how substantial they are, and then make a decision on the particular material, design, and height.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to work with you or anybody on that.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a particular design that we're very interested in or not interested in terms of them if they can provide samples?
Yeah. And the ones with the spikes on top kind of helps deter people from climbing over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the one in the lower right-hand corner, the four with the rounded tops. I'm not sure how high that one is, if that would be high enough. I think that's a nice, very nice looking fence. Or the one in the upper left with the gate is actually very nice looking also.
And it will have a gate, so.
Yeah.
But I think they could. I would assume they could put that into any of these.
Right.
So the
that's
ideal
good.
fencing has some more kind of ornamental looking options. High point fencing is a little more straightforward. Yeah, it's true. The only difference is like the second bar, like running through
Right.
the top here on that one, and then these. I don't know if like the top
picture
little
two and three
finial is a
look
little different,
the
but
same.
those ones are a little more kind of standard design, I guess. And we were a little bit leery about accepting that quote to begin with.
Which
Their
one is that?
initial
Sorry.
scope for high.
I don't think
High
it was
point
off the
fencing?
table. I think it just
No,
came in a lot
but-
lower than the other ones, so we wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that we were still getting a good product and not,
Yeah.
but at the same time not overpaying for something. So
Are these local companies?
Yes.
So we just need to get an understanding of what the height of it's going to be, and then we just need to kind of choose a style and material. Is that right?
And also
But-
the stability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So can we?
Um,
Are there any styles that we can immediately say yay or nay to?
anything that you
I
guys
think
don't
the
like
top
of these?
left looks a little modern to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you look at the gate, I don't know if you can see it outside the window there or not, but if you look at what's there, it's more like the open pieces almost with the little,
Yeah,
it looks
they
kind
have
of
the
more
arrow-
similar
they
to
have
this
the
with a
arrows.
little sort
But
of
I'm okay
finial
with-
on the top.
Yeah, but I'm okay with this fence looking quite different. Maybe not modern, but quite different than the wrought iron,
Well, the
because it
purpose of
does
this
show that
was
it's
to
separate.
go with the
from-
same aesthetic.
Well,
So
sort
I don't
of,
know. I just
but-
mean I don't know that we want it to look too different if the whole purpose of not using
Yeah.
the wood fence is to continue the existing aesthetic.
Well, in that case, then the upper right corner is going to be the choice, or the option 2 or 3 look. because those are pointed. The
Yeah.
fence around the properties.
And actually, I agreed about the upper right corner, and that is what this quote is for. They vary minimally.
You like
but
that one?
That was just the one that I thought looked the most similar to what's out there.
The upper right hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is the classic, I think, actually it's called.
Yeah, that's classic because it's straight all the way across the top.
Okay.
Then there's the Warrior, which has that.
I don't
kind
think
of,
that one's shown, but it's the
it's
same.
kind of what these ones
It's on the
look
second
and down.
page. Is that right? On the second page?
No, there's
They're
two
two
different
separate
companies.
companies.
Two different companies. Is that
But
the
it's
same
similar.
look? Similar look?
Yeah, I think
You know
that
what
I
the-
think they're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So maybe a sample of this style, and then some questions here. The maintenance of aluminum versus steel, the lifetime height and stability.
Right.
So a sample of Classic and a sample of Warrior?
No, I don't think that's necessary. I think a sample of classic from this company, and then if we want to get a sample of, I guess, one of the bottom two options here from the other company, if they provide those, would that be a standard thing that they might do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if they have an address locally, we can look at when actually
Okay.
installed is.
Okay.
Actually,
Better.
the ones on the back are really all the same
They look
style.
very similar.
Yeah, the only
They
difference I
kinda
can
look
see
like
is the one has the two bars at the top versus the one
Oh.
bar. But otherwise, yeah, they're,
Right.
they're
Yeah,
pretty
picture 2 and
much.
3 look very similar.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference is, but.
The
Double
material.
bar and the material.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right, Julia. It's the ornamental steel, and this is the
I see
aluminum
this.
option.
Mm.
Yeah, I misspoke.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to get those
Yes, you can
samples.
Yeah.
And then I'll let everyone know maybe when a good time would be that. Jeff, it sounds like you're interested in looking at that and inspecting the material. And if anyone else wanted to be able
Okay.
to.
But all this said, we are interested in moving forward with aluminum or steel as opposed to the wood.
Yeah.
Okay. The other piece I have for the encampment, just quickly, is working on a quote for security lighting, which would entail. So last summer they put in an electric trench back here so that we could run electricity from the gazebo, and this is the same company that did that. So tapping into that trench, the existing electrical trench out here, and putting in a light fixture just on this kind of area here between the gazebo and the shed, or where this new fencing would be. There are two existing light fixtures on the carriage house now, one of them above that stairwell that we're talking about, one of them above the front door, that both have ballast issues and need to be replaced. So the recommendation from this company and from the city facilities is to replace those with LED fixtures. So we'll move forward with that because those security lighting features that have been there and have not been working for a long time. So getting those updated to help with security lighting there. And then the main question is the new shed area. In order to put lighting in that area, like lighting inside the shed, which we need to figure out something for that for events, for catering, and then potentially like motion censored flood lighting behind it or around it if people are in that space, would require tapping into the existing line that runs overhead right here from the house. It kind of runs over this way, so there'd be another like line that runs from that same line over to the shed. So I don't know if that's something we're interested in or not. This company also mentioned solar, which they can't provide, but potentially we could find somebody to do a solar option. So there'd be solar panels on top of the little shed back here to provide light for inside and outside of that shed. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that one way or another, but we're just kind of, right now we're just exploring lighting options. Because that's kind of the other piece for encampment mitigation that goes along with fencing is security lighting.
Do you need any action done now, or is this just food for thought? That we need to kind of consider
I guess
for
I'd like
next
to
time?
hear, briefly some thoughts or opinions now to inform what we're looking at for this process. if anybody has any.
I say defer to the experts.
Yeah. I mean, LED lights make a lot of sense because they're low energy, last a long time. I think the appearance of light fixtures, I think, are important,
I agree.
and also light pollution, I think, is also important.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of like wall packs up on the sides of buildings or gas stations just light up everything. They're really pretty obnoxious to look at.
Yeah.
So we need to have a balance between appropriate looking lighting and also something that's going to function.
Right. And the interesting thing about what's out there now and a lot of the outdoor lighting on this property in general is all very modern and not super period appropriate, but including the ones that are there now. So maybe there's something that we can get that would be better, but that's LED. So yeah, but that's always a consideration, is the aesthetic and the period appropriateness of any fixtures.
I like the solar idea personally. Just
Yeah, I like it so that we're not running another cord.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a cord there, and it would kind of run with that one, but creating another like modern electrical
Would that be an overhead
situation.
line?
Well, it would just be the electrical cord that would run from the existing cord that goes right out this way, and then taking it, kind of offshooting that to the shed. So yeah, I don't love that. Just aesthetically, adding an extra modern fixture there. So I'd be interested in exploring solar if that's an option. It'd have to be a different company, but so.
As long as it provides the adequate lighting for
Right.
a long enough period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of this is like motion lighting, so it's not just going to be blasting constantly. I think with the exception potentially of a fixture out here that would be on a post. I think they were considering that one being on, but maybe there's some different options there. I'm not sure. So I guess out here it sounds like maybe the solar option, if it's possible, would be preferred. Here those have to be changed either way, but looking for something that fits the aesthetic of the property. And what are the thoughts about a fixture out here?
If you're going to put a fixture in that area, I'd recommend that you put it as close to the fence line as possible, preferably the east fence, because that is effectively lighting that area from where there are nooks and crannies that you want to avoid, being dim.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's also kind of just a little more off the property rather than.
Well, we want to make sure that we're
center
lighting
of
our
that
property
area.
and not,
Right.
like you're talking about light pollution for other people's property. So I don't know
Right.
what the permitting looks like for that. Maybe it
Yeah.
has to be in a certain location for permitting. But this is early on and, kind of figuring this stuff out. But yeah.
Well, that could be looked into, because I think they do have the kinds of fixtures that put the light in a focus area.
Yeah.
And so while it may be at the edge of the property, the focus light is not going to be behind it, but in front of it, down in front of it. And
Yeah, I think they were talking about having something closer this way, but I'm sure we can look at other location options and having it like two fixtures that kind of go like this to light basically up to the gazebo-ish, and then that back area that is problematic. So,
Well, I guess getting those options would be helpful. I think to learn solar on the.
yeah, this was just the
Seems
first kind of
okay.
dive into the lighting situation. So, yeah.
Do you need anything further from us at this time?
No, unless there's any opinions about any of those three potential things further than what we've just discussed. Okay.
Okay. Is that everything for the encampment?
I think so, yeah.
All right. So we can move on to the 2025 calendar events. I think we have just the two items to discuss, but that's sort of, do we want to, I guess I should ask, do we want to discuss the gift of home tour today, or do we want to put that on next month's agenda and plan to make a decision next month?
I think some initial discussion while it's fresh would be appropriate, especially given that they need an answer within 4 to 6 weeks, and then our next board meeting is in 4 weeks.
Okay.
So if there's any follow-up needed after that point, we have a little bit of time, but I think
Okay.
at least some initial thoughts would be good today.
So why don't we slip that in right before we do the Santa visit, because I think one will sort of tie into the other, if I'm thinking along the right lines. So let's talk about the gift of home tour and Habitat for Humanity homes as potentially part of this calendar of events that we're going to have. What are some thoughts?
I think it'd be a very appropriate thing to do. I think for us, for the Callahan House Explosion, also for Habitat, I think I presume that would hopefully increase their sales of tickets and interest, which supports them. So that aspect's very good. I guess the calendar is also a concern. How's that going to tie in with the things we would be doing here in December? Can we do both, or 3 things, whatever we're doing?
Those are good questions. I think if thinking about, can we do an open house, a holiday open house, and gift of home tour? Potentially, yes, because if they have done in the past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and now they're looking at only doing Friday and Saturday, potentially we could have our holiday open house, which is free to everyone on Thursday, and then the tour of homes would be the Friday and Saturday.
Are you trying to kill us?
No, no. Here's the only thinking, and we can do something different this year. The objective, I think, for our open houses is that we do one every season, every season: spring, summer, fall, and winter, or Christmas holiday time, and that is so that the community can be welcomed in free of charge to come in and tour the house. I like that we stated that. If this is a one and done thing where we will do the gift of home tour 1 year only, and that might then take out the need for a second separate holiday open house, that's something for everyone to think about and decide. That's, do we do that?
I see this as a one and done.
Yeah.
They're not going to want
Different
to.
houses
I
every
mean,
year.
they look for different places.
Right. Or every couple, 3
Yeah.
years, whatever, but not necessarily every year.
And it could depend on whether they do the Thursday or not. Like maybe
Yes,
we
right.
Yeah,
plan
that's
to
not
build
a
on
done
that.
decision.
That's what I'm. Oh,
Yeah.
well, it sounds like they're leaning to the Friday and Saturday.
I feel the same.
But if
Yeah.
they decided to do the Thursday, then that would keep us from doing an
Yeah.
open house free to the public on Thursday.
Yeah, and we'll still do the Santa open house, which is still like a free offering in
It is,
that
but it is
time period.
But it's limited.
It is,
and
yeah.
it's registration only.
But it's still,
and it's
you know,
potentially
a
a
community
Santa visit.
offering.
But the problem is that our Santa visit is usually the first
Right.
Friday of December. That's when the home tour is.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah,
Friday.
but I mean the holiday lights stuff is it that second Thursday, or I'm sorry, second
Santa would be
weekend?
next Friday, the 12th for the city lights.
So that would work for Santa.
Not
Santa's
for our
already
Santa, yeah.
at the Memorial Building
Oh, okay.
for that following. You'd have to, as a board, decide when you would want Santa then to come. If you're already booking the home tour on Friday and Saturday of that first week of December, and Santa's already booked the next Friday. The
I'd
12th.
say this year we don't do Santa. That's my thought because I mean I know some people get down on it. But then it's like
Ouch, Candy. You're going to have some pretty
Yeah.
angry people.
well
Could
again I mean if we're looking at the home tour, I don't see that we can do both. If the 12th is when city has Santa, then we're getting real close to Christmas.
I think there's
either
other
do
options
it-
for you to book Santa. I think
Yeah, maybe that
I think that's a
Thursday?
scary thought of not doing Santa here.
Would be
Yeah.
doing our Santa the Thursday before the city does their bigger Santa potential.
So
Or
it would be
I
the
don't-
following Thursday. So the
It'd
first
be the-
Friday,
yeah.
Saturday would be the gift of home tour.
Yeah.
The following Thursday would be Santa.
Potentially the 11th, because then the
11th.
city does their Santa on the 12th,
Right.
and then they do the.
Oh, so
lights
you're
on
okay with the
13th.
back-to-back thing?
I'd
Well,
have,
that's what I'm
I'd
asking.
have to ask
Yeah.
our the rec team too what that would potentially complicate or interfere with the event that we're already running that Friday night. You know what I mean?
Well, I say something's got to go, though. I don't think we can do all three things.
I also think it sounded like Habitat was willing to support the home tour with volunteers, so it didn't sound like you all needed to necessarily be here both Friday night and Saturday. You could split that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we could do, like, everybody takes one, and so we have half board members and half volunteers for each day.
So that your time commitment wasn't potentially 3 days in a row or even 2 days in a row.
I didn't see this as piling more on our plate. I saw it as a one-time, one and done kind of thing to get us more involved with the city activity that was going on.
And there could be some justification for that. This is one special thing we're doing this year, and so this is our holiday offering this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could certainly see it for, like, if we don't offer the regular open house also. The Santa thing, I don't know. Here's something to be said about the Santa thing is it's typically the same families that come every year, so they would probably have a hard time if it wasn't going on. However, this year we're going to be doing it differently anyway. I think we're going to try to figure out a lottery-based registration so that it's not just the same people that come every time and are upset about being online at 2 a.m. to register. So that said, those people may not have been able to come anyway. I don't know. It's not like they would know all of that back end of things, but I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying.
How long does the city event go on the 12th? What are the hours for that?
Like 5 to 9.
Oh, 5 to 9.
Yeah.
It's like-
Santa shows up at 4:45. I think the first showing with Santa is at 5:15.
And keeping in mind, this is the same Santa.
Same
So
person.
it's same person.
Right,
so
So do people come and stay for that, or is it mostly just the Santa visit and then they leave? Or
There's a bunch
whole-
of events in the park as well. So Santa's at the senior center, and then there's a bunch of stuff in the park. We've got food trucks, vendors,
Okay.
glow sticks. The ice rink is open. There's performances at the ice rink, and then there's a whole Santa's workshop at the Memorial Building where Home Depot
okay.
comes and brings toys, and there's all these vendors. So it is a whole thing, and we did try a ticketed style situation last year, which did end up working really well, so that people could sign up and then go enjoy the festival and then come back and see Santa, which we're going to continue to do this year after we kind of worked out the tweaks. But yes, Santa is the lure to the event.
But there's a whole lot of things going on.
Yeah, I'm sure some people might just come and see Santa and leave, but there's a ton for kids to do. So seeing Santa's like a bonus, and then you've got all this other really cool stuff for kids to run around. It's different if you have like an infant that can't do any of that, but
I
there's
think
a lot going on there.
the questions that can kind of steer some of this is like, would it be okay for us to then do a Santa event on the 11th or potentially the 14th? I don't know, because the city's events are the 12th and 13th. Is that okay? Is Santa available? And if not, then
Like Sunday the 14th?
Yeah, I don't know.
That could be cool.
Potentially. Or if that doesn't work, then we're looking at the next weekend, which is getting really close to.
What would be, if you're looking at a Sunday, what would be wrong with looking at Sunday the 7th?
Sure, there's potential there. That's going to be, if we do the open house, 2 nights of the home tour, and then Santa, that's 4 days in a row of holiday events. So.
Right. But again, with volunteers from Habitat for Humanity, it would lighten the load on the board, not having to
On the board,
be
yeah,
at
not
all
the
of
staff,
those
but
events.
You going to town that weekend?
Sorry.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just kidding. No, it's fine. But yeah, I think there's potential for that too. Again, like if Santa's available.
Let me chat with the rec team and just see what, because I don't want us to be like gung ho on something and then it'd be like, oh, that's actually not going to work with the rec department. So let me see what their Ben and Sam's take on like where we could play Santa within that same week, if that's okay with you guys. Because if it's no problem to do that Thursday, you know, you are definitely pulling. You're like you said, there are specific people who want to come see Santa here versus the people that are going to the big event. And the way you guys ran it last year was like amazing and calm and beautiful. So it's just 2 separate like Santa events in my mind. The people who are seeing Santa here are not then going to see Santa
And typically, all that said, and typically if we were to do that, we're just reversing the events. Because normally Santa, we have that first Friday, and then we do our open house the Thursday before the city events. So we're just kind of reversing those if we were to do it that way. But I also think, like, to Candy's point, if the Habitat for Humanity is doing their tour on Thursday, then maybe we consider not having our regular open house this year. I don't know.
Which I see Karen's point of that. We should offer something free if we're like. I think the home tour is going to be amazing. And again, I'm not the board. This is just me talking. I agree with allowing the free event because the home tour is going to be exclusive to.
But that's still a community offering where we're giving back to the community via those donations to Habitat for Humanity, and we're still offering the Santa event. So
I guess it depends on how you
wouldn't
advertise.
be we would be like negating our community outreach that time of year if we didn't offer the free holiday.
Do we want to not have a free open house?
I think we're saying it might depend on whether or not the home tour takes place on that Thursday.
Right, but do we want to not have a free open house?
I think it
Not
depends.
regarding
This is the
dates or
discussion.
anything. Do we want to not have an open house? Do people?
My preference is no.
want to do
I
it?
think we should have a free open house, but that's just my personal.
Okay. I was just question if do we want to consider not doing it.
It's
I
up
assume-
to you
discussion
all.
is-
I mean, really,
Well, I assume
it
a
is
lot
a
of the
board
community
decision.
who, I
It is a
presume a
board
lot of the community
decision.
look forward to coming to it.
People
All of a
look forward to.
sudden,
We've
we're
gained
not having it.
momentum, and year to year we have new people who hadn't been here before.
I see one thing. I'm sorry, Karen. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
I see one thing we need to consider, though. If we're offering to partner with Habitat, and we offer a freebie, we're taking away from what we're hoping to help them with.
That's a good point.
We're hoping to help them with their fundraiser. We're not only wanting to showcase us, we want to help. And by offering the freebie, we've taken that away.
Especially if it's a 1 year.
That's true.
thing.
It's just
and the
1
night
year.
That's a really good point.
And we've got 3 other open houses through the year that we do that are well attended. So if somebody really and truly wants to come and they want to come for free, okay, here in April, come or whatever.
Yeah, that's
So-
true. That's a good
That's a
point.
really great point.
Maybe some guidance from Chris on the matter, because I don't know that we really talked with him about that if we might also hold a free event that's kind of the same event, and if that's a conflict, for them. I don't think we really talked with him about that. So, but that was a really
I
good
think
point.
it is.
Yeah, I think
And we're
everybody's
gonna be there
say,
showcasing
oh, there's a
their-
free one.
their-
Why
The
not?
night before, yeah.
Wait for that.
Why
It's
not?
going to have all the
$40.
Christmas
They're also-
decorations.
True. Also seeing other houses, seeing vendors. They're supporting a nonprofit group.
It is
It's
grabbing a
not,
different.
not
It is
all
grabbing a
about
different
here.
Right.
group of people.
Yeah.
Now, if we have Santa, is it possible to have an open house Santa at the same time?
It is if we made it the Santa just in the auto house, and then we could do
Oh.
the house open house. So we could do
Yeah.
that. We can have Santa's workshop in the auto house, and so all visits are with
Yeah.
Santa are in the auto house, and then the house is open.
Open house and Santa visit.
Wait a minute, open house with Habitat?
No,
No,
So
no,
we're
no,
referring
no.
to a different open house?
Open house for the city for the purpose of the community, welcoming the community in for free, and that includes reservation only Santa visits in the Santa's workshop.
Okay,
in
but
the
that
auto
still
house.
negates what I just said about.
Right.
I think again, I think
That's
that
a
guidance
different
from Chris
weekend,
is
maybe.
like,
It's a different weekend.
yeah.
Yeah, but people might hold
It
off.
better be
right?
afterwards.
Afterwards,
would be.
it would be.
But let's
Well,
do
even
hear
if
from
it is,
Chris
they
on
might hold
his
off
thoughts
on
about
that.
that.
But the problem again, we would advertise ahead of time, and you're taking
Right.
it away.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
That's
say
true.
if we're going to commit to them,
That's true.
we commit,
Okay.
and we don't give it away.
Is it acceptable to the board not to have a free open house this year?
For 1 year.
Yeah,
It is
Fine with
to me.
me. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
So no major community disappointment that all of a sudden
I don't
we
know
can't
what
go this
kind of
year?
community
I think-
feedback will come.
I
I think if
but-
you canceled Santa, you would get community.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
a
that
big
might be-
one.
The open house, I really appreciate your perspective on that.
Right.
I completely switched my thought process. So,
And
yeah,
I know a
think-
lot of people that came to the open house said we're talking to each other about the guided tour. Oh, when was that? Oh, I missed it, or
So that was something they were wanting to go to, and that could satisfy them.
I'm sorry, the guided.
Well, I mean the home tour,
Okay, yeah.
not guided tour.
Oh, gotcha.
The-
So
the
you heard
gift
people
of
at the
home
open house
tour.
talking about
About the home
tour.
tour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The habitat.
Habitat,
Yes.
gift of home tour. Yeah.
Okay.
I also got the opposite, that if we did both, Habitat will take people from our open house, so with less people coming through the open house. But you're thinking the opposite. Open house could take people away from the Habitat,
Yeah.
which I think is a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, there's tons of people that go to this. Year after year after year. It's
Yeah.
a tradition.
He said last year,
A lot of
350
people
people.
go every
So
year.
he said last year, 350 people.
Well, and I would guarantee that the numbers have fallen off over the last 2-3 years.
That's what he's saying
Yeah.
is it used to be prior there was quite a bit more, but yeah.
He expects more this
Trying to
year.
get more.
Yeah, but that in terms of equating to our numbers, I mean, last year I think we had about 300 people come through, so you know it's not changing the numbers that we would see in the house in December either. So that's a good thing. I think your point is really valid, Candy.
So how about we go ahead and do that? How about we substitute the holiday open house just for this year to support
Yeah.
Habitat?
And we can market it in such a way that people will understand
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah.
That we're special, 1 year only community event where we're supporting Habitat, and as such,
Yeah.
this is the opportunity to see the house this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we all okay with doing that?
I am. Yep.
I think that
Yeah.
generally then the board is
Right.
accepting of that.
Okay.
And then getting some guidance about good dates for Santa possibilities.
So it could be on a Thursday or maybe on a Sunday.
And if it-
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, and if it has to be a Sunday, earlier is better. 7th would be preferable.
You're thinking when now?
December 7th. Because it's just,
Sunday.
it's earlier. It gets us done and complete with events earlier rather than getting close to the holidays for everyone.
Unless they have to be taking, unless there is a vendor that has to be taking stuff down
Yeah,
that Sunday.
that could interfere with the end of that home tour. And you know, there's going to be people.
Because he said they'll either, depending on if it's earlier in the day, they would take it down that Saturday, but if it's an evening time frame, they take it down on Sunday. So
Right.
Mhm.
There'll be
another-
people in the house until 8 o'clock or later Saturday night. So it's kind of quick, fast turnaround.
Well, I suppose that would depend on the location we're going to use. Are we going to use the auto house for?
it's going to depend on the
Or-
vendor. I don't,
Yeah, so these are unknowns
Really?
yet.
yeah.
I
So,
think vendor
sounds like
might
you
be
need
in
to
the
do
house.
Yes.
That's where everybody is.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
getting people that's going to go to the house to buy
Yeah, it's
things.
for a long time.
Okay, well, let's get some questions answered in regards to. We need some information about Habitat for Humanity and whether that Sunday is going to be available, and then when Santa is available, and what is okay for the city to have our Santa event. So let's get those questions answered, and then it can kind of guide the Santa aspects. But otherwise, I think we have a good. We're prepared to move forward with the home tour and not do the Callahan open house this year.
Okay.
Plus,
Yes.
even if they take stuff down on Saturday, there's going to be stuff that has to be done in the house to clean up after all
Exactly.
these people going through.
Exactly.
It's not going to
Do you
be
think it's going to be different than the
pristine.
impact of your normal open house?
I'm not sure. I think if it's that night, maybe, but if it's earlier in the day, we might be all right. So it just depends on the
Yeah.
time frame of the tour.
If we have runners through the house, those are going to have to be pulled up and stuff. It's just too much
Is there
of a
any
turnaround.
reason? Is there any reason? Not that it matters, but is there any reason we'd need runners if people have booties on there? I mean,
Except
people walk
that-
in the house as it is already,
Right.
just in our open houses with just their feet, their regular shoes.
It's up to you
But-
whether you want to protect
Yeah,
the carpets
that's
or
something we
not.
can talk about.
That's-
But I think let's.
You just had them
Keep
shampooed, didn't you, recently?
It was it was
So, I mean,
a couple months ago, but
that's a concern.
Okay, fair. All right.
Okay.
So I think we're decided on. If, Jeff, you.
Okay. Well, just one thing. As far as with Habitat, there seem to be teetering between having it 3 days or 2 days.
Right.
Do we have any concern about 3 days versus 2 days?
I don't think we really have any say. So it's
Well, I mean, we
see
could.
what it's going to be.
But
if we're going
potentially-
to do it, we could say we prefer to have it 2 days.
I don't know if that works with the
We
way
can
they
do
sell
that.
the tickets.
No,
But-
It's a
But it might help Habitat make their mind
That-
up if they have
that-
it 2 or
yeah,
3 days.
Exactly.
Some
I get what he's
influence on
saying.
that.
Right, exactly.
If you'll say it is our preference that it be 2 days
Right.
and that it be the Friday and Saturday.
I think they are the organization
They
that
are.
know
They'll decide
what
what-
to decide, and we're going to do it or we're not going to.
So
do
we
it.
have no
So
problem with it being 3 days then. If
we
that's
can
what
make
they
it.
do.
If we were talking about having another open house on that Thursday, there's no difference.
Yeah.
3 days is fine if that's what they decide to do.
Well, it sounds like if we do our own decorations, that cuts down on what they would normally have to do.
Yeah, and I think
So it
we'll
cuts down
have
on their
to
costs.
do our
We
own
do
so that
ours.
it's up, all year, and then
Okay.
Okay.
so yeah.
Well, Habitat isn't decorating, the vendors decorating.
Right. The vendors
Yeah.
are putting their items out.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So it matters
okay.
or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think then that's where I think we'll put this again to next month's agenda to learn more about what answers we received, and then make final.
Maybe we should look
Decisions
at a
then.
middle of the week kind of thing too, if you want to do Santa
Midweek. Yeah.
possibility.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
If that's,
Not
we
a
want
bad
to keep
idea.
that.
Yeah. Okay. So that really does wrap up our agenda item for the calendar of events because it kind of incorporates all those for now. So we'll be talking more about those next month. So now we are about 5 minutes before what is supposed to be our meeting in time. I'd like to get this done as succinctly as possible. Can we go ahead and just each of the committees select a committee meeting date? So I know.
Can we do that without Maureen here? I think she's
Yes, we can
involved in a lot
because
of
she
these.
will she will be, let's see, Club Affair. Does is Maureen included in Club Affair?
I don't
Be
think so.
in
It's
there.
Diane and I that are the co-chairs, and we need to have more information about
Yeah.
what's it called?
Unity. Yeah, so
Unity in the
briefly,
community.
I did meet with the chamber about that, and they are interested in partnering with us. I'm waiting to get some more details and basically a quote back to what that would look like. The idea that they had is to have us do like kind of a Callahan and our clubs area as part of the event over on Main. Or in downtown, and give us kind of like a section. And they were looking at potentially the library, civic center, courtyard area. And so that would be like Callahan's area with whatever clubs that we bring, and giving
That's
us
a nice
like
spot.
and giving us like a discounted rate to be part of that. And then that rate would decide what we need to charge per table for people to be involved. So it would look quite a bit different than, not quite a bit different. I think the structure and some of the fees and things like that could be a little different than what we've done for Club Affair. Because last year Club Affair was a donation-based table fee. The suggested donation was $50. So yeah, I'm waiting to hear about what rates that they could maybe offer us, and then that would, designate what we charge people per table. Keeping in mind that last year we had, bear with me, 215 people come through Club Affair. That included the vendors, so knock about 50 people off of that. Whereas they get, I can't remember the number she gave me.
So
800 people,
Hundreds.
1,000 people to come through that, and so it would be a much greater exposure than what we could pull off here, but it would be asking whoever joins us there to pay a much higher table fee. So those are I'm still waiting on the numbers. She just checked in a couple days ago and said they're still trying to figure it out, but they want to offer us the best rate that they can at kind of a special rate than what everybody else would pay at the event. But I think it would be a much greater exposure, but
But it takes it off the grounds of Callahan.
takes out the grounds of Callahan.
So should the committee meet between now and the next board meeting, or are we going to wait till the next board meeting to have more information?
We should maybe wait.
Okay. All right. Then Art Walk is kind of the same thing because Maureen is chairing that. We'll have to wait to set something on that. And Fall Tea, we could, we could technically schedule it to piggyback off of a video or in place of a video review this Friday. Because Maureen did respond she was available for that.
Yeah, I will know that
So-
maybe around 1 o'clock or so about that, because I've got a meeting right at noon, and then I can review the video after that. I mean, it shouldn't take much. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, just see if there's stripes and blurry images. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, then based on that, we may substitute faulty in the space
Okay.
of the video review if that won't happen. And then the room-by-room docents tour would, well, I think that we may need to, Jeff, you have to decide, do you want to go ahead and set that for between now and next
Yeah, would like to.
Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
So what are
other
your thoughts
thing
on
to keep in
that?
mind about that is I have a meeting later this afternoon with Rachel to talk about how the QR codes can potentially work and like hosting that on the website. So still waiting on some more information for that.
Okay.
I don't think that necessarily changes whether or not you can start meeting and compiling what
Mhm.
information you want for that. But just note that that piece is still being figured out.
Okay.
So
So we're going to set a date?
I think a committee date would
Yeah.
probably be good.
Not to backtrack, I'm sorry, but would the Art Walk committee be better served for Friday? It's kind of a bigger event that we need to get
It-
rolling. 6
it-
months away.
Yeah, it can be if you'd prefer that to be
I just was thinking since Maureen
Sure.
is heading that and we know she's available
okay.
on Friday, maybe instead of faulty.
Sure,
Okay.
that's fine.
So Friday, if
Friday.
the video doesn't,
I think we should.
Yeah, then we'll make it the Art Walk committee.
Should we piggyback Art Walk off of video if video is allowed? Because I would imagine if video is going to happen, it's
Should
going to
be.
be fairly.
Should be.
Short.
Yeah, if there's time. We're meeting at 1:30, so as long as people have time in their schedule that afternoon.
Yep.
Let's make that the plan,
Okay.
Okay, so video and then Art Walk or just Art Walk?
right?
Okay.
then
and that was
Jeff, what are your
Maureen, and
thoughts
who else
then?
is on the art walk thing?
I am.
Okay.
Art Walk.
I think I
Yeah.
am too. I don't
Jeff and
remember.
Cindy and
It's in
Maureen.
the
Volunteer.
minutes.
Hmm?
Did I volunteer
You're
for
also
that?
on public.
No,
Walk?
you
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
We'll do an art walk on Friday. So then, Jeff, what is your thought then for?
I mean, it's, next week,
Sure.
maybe Thursday. I'm pretty flexible next week.
Okay.
And Maureen was going to be part of that also.
Yeah, and she said she's more flexible when she's back.
I think
so,
she comes back like tonight. So
Yeah.
she'll be here
So-
starting tomorrow.
I think that should work. So Thursday of next week is the
20th.
20th. And so, oh, wait a minute here. I won't be available then, actually. I'm sorry. I could be available on the Wednesday.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
We won't be able to meet in the house because we have clubs, but if you want to meet off-site, that's up to you.
What time are you thinking?
I'm sorry, we can.
The house is
Canvas.
not available on Wednesdays because of clubs, but sometimes people choose to meet at other places in your homes or at the library, conference rooms, or
Or
whatever.
around
So
too.
that's up to you, unless you want to look at a time when the house is
Probably,
available.
Or is
I
Tuesday
probably
an
am.
option?
We actually do have clubs on that Tuesday. They're only
Since
once a
I'm not
month, but
meeting then, I
it's
think
on
I'm
Tuesday.
on too. Just
So
wanted
is the whole house
The list is in the minutes.
unavailable both Tuesday
Oh,
Yeah,
and
they're going to be up and
Wednesday.
down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We can find a place to meet. Otherwise,
Monday is
Okay.
available
Yeah.
in the house. The rest of the days are full, but Monday is open.
that works also for me.
Works too?
Be in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So Monday afternoon.
What time?
At 1:30.
Sure.
And is that just the two of you?
And Maureen. And I'm sure.
And anybody else who wants to.
And anyone
Yeah.
else is. That's
Okay.
the.
I'll just send it
the-
to everybody.
A blanket statement. Anyone is welcome to attend and be part of any committee. It is not closed. It can include everybody. So. Okay. So then, moving on to the room-by-room docents tour brochure. Jeff, I think you have something short to share, or
I think it can be the same.
I don't know. I can't hear anything
Kind of just
now.
looking and talking a bit, going through the information we have. There's a lot of information here. I'm still new to the organization, which I think is good, because most people I think are going to come through the house going to be new. I think we've got, just very briefly, probably 3 level of people coming through. Those just novice come because it's a nice old house. We have those who are probably very interested in detail, and then probably historians, the real professionals. And from that group, we'll probably learn from them instead of them learning from us. But as far as just the novice coming through, I think it'd be nice to have some presentation, whether if it's a pamphlet or boards or something that just gives a very brief information about the family of the house. But I also like to, first of all, kind of determine who's coming through, what their anticipations are, what they're expecting, and see what we can do to meet their expectation, also enhance what they're looking for. So something very brief, and that either it's pamphlet they could take with them or something they could leave, or whether display boards. And then for the more serious people, we do have a lot of information about the house. I think it'd be great. I mean, it's a lot here we have to go through, but formatted in a fashion that it's user-friendly. And that might be going into a book, if we want to do a booklet that we can actually sell. And I think that's a direction that we can go that has more detailed information about the house and the family and such. So I was my initial thoughts. Want to determine what the people's needs are, what the expectations are, meet them, enhance them, and then getting much more detailed and all that information. Those are very serious about the house and the history and something that they may actually want to have and purchase.
Yeah.
So I think that's all will be part of what the community will be working on.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to new business, the 2025 club applications. There are 2.
Yes, and they're both PEO chapters. One of them is going to be taking the spot of the PEO that ended at the end of last year. Another one is going to be on Monday nights. It's the 3rd Monday monthly. So GH chapter is starting today. This is the one that we had emailed about just to make sure that everybody was kind of on board, but I would like an official vote to bring them on. And then CJ chapter is going to be starting here on Monday, which is Candy and Karen Reed's chapter, on the 3rd Monday, April 14th, I believe it is. And so we've got the applications included in the packet for both. And, obviously PEO is very historically tied to Callahan House, so we'd be delighted to have them, and I'm just looking for an official vote to accept both of those chapters as new Callahan clubs.
Just for a quick point of clarification, the page 14 is that which one is that?
CJ.
This is CJ. So page 14 is CJ, and then page 15 is
GH. Yeah.
GH. I noticed that was one thing that we don't have on our club application. We may want to revisit that later. But
Oh yeah, when there's multiple.
yeah.
So multiples of the same organization.
Yeah.
So I talked to Sarah about those last 2 questions, where she put question mark, how might the club support the efforts, and how might the club promote education? So we definitely will do that.
Yeah.
She didn't confer with me before she turned this in.
Oh, well, that's okay.
And you said it's the 3rd Monday and not the 2nd Monday?
It's the
Is it the
3rd Monday. No, it's the 2nd Monday.
Okay, well, then
Because
it's right on
Monday.
here.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Well, I think it's wonderful. We have PEO clubs. here
Yeah,
at the
that'll be
house, so
3
it's
chapters total now then.
3.
you still have the 3rd one.
Yeah, FD started, and in fact, they're coming up on their year mark in April.
Yeah. That's fine. That's excellent. Well,
Very good.
do we have a motion to accept both applications?
I move that we accept both applications for the PEO groups.
So
Second.
Cindy seconds. All in favor? Yes. All unanimously approved as well. Okay. Can we keep items from staff and items from the board to just what needs to be
I don't have
talked
anything.
about? Okay, because it's 11:38. So I want to be respectful of people's time. No items from staff. Any items from the board? Okay. Well, being that it's 11:38, is there a motion to adjourn? Jeff, motion to adjourn. Cindy seconds, and all in favor?
Yes.
Unanimously.
Who was the second?
Oh, yes.
Who's the first?
That goes to Cindy, can you pass that to Karen and Shannon? Thank you.
Trying to keep this in our time.
Is your meeting here,
Lots to talk
Karen?
about.
It's on the phone with Longmont, the Longmont Hotel to see about our boardwalk partnership. So I'm excited about